All praises to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is Israelite Prepper. I was reading an article, and it has to do with state marriage licenses. And it actually made a few interesting points, and I wanted to share a few of them with you. Let me go through it a little bit. And first and foremost, it starts with a definition of a license. And it says the definition of a license demands that we not obtain one to marry. Now listen closely. It demands that we not obtain one. It says Black's Law Dictionary defines a license as the permission by competent authority to do an act which without such permission would be illegal. So if you get married without a license, it's illegal. So does that mean all licenses or all marriages before there was a such thing as a license, are all those illegal? Do they not count? Do they not count in the eyes of the Most High? How was marriage instituted in the Bible? Something to think about. So we have to have the permission of the state. That is a natural human right. So without it, it's illegal. Think about that for a second. Let's see. So it says, obviously, it says, more importantly, why should we need the state's permission to participate in something which God instituted in Genesis 2? Interesting. The next point, it says, by obtaining a marriage license, you place yourself under the jurisdiction of family court, which is governed by unbiblical and immoral laws. I think we can all agree with that. We're putting ourselves under the jurisdiction of family court. That is who oversees our life and our marriage. It's up to you. It says under these laws you can divorce for any reason. Now in the Bible, can you divorce for any reason? There's few reasons. Often the court side with the spouse who is in rebellion to God. We know who that is. We know most of the time, let's not get sensitive, let's not get immature. We know that most of the time the court sides with the wife or soon to be ex-wife. So is it fair? And it also castigates the spouse who remains faithful by ordering him, sometimes her, not to speak about the Bible or other matters of faith when presented with the children. Okay, so come on, we know that's not right. We know that's not right. Let's be for real here. Okay. The marriage license invades the jurisdiction of family government. Of course it does. The authority is not with the family. The authority is not with the man. The authority is with the government. When you get the state marriage license, and when you read the Bible, you see that God intended for children to have their father's blessing regarding whom they marry. For example, the daughters were to be given in marriage by their fathers. Deuteronomy 22:16, Exodus 22:17, 1 Corinthians 7:38. We have a vestige of this in the culture today, in that the father takes his daughter to the front of the altar, and the minister asks, who gives this woman to be married to this man? So, you get a little bit of that, but what is it really authority? Is it really authority? Because in the Bible, if the father protested a marriage or disallowed a marriage, it didn't happen, and it didn't count. It didn't count. We can read in the Bible where if a man entices a young maid and he lays with her, he still had to pay the dowry price, and if the father refused, he wasn't married. It didn't count. He still paid the dowry price, and it did not count. So when it came to marriage, that's where the authority came from. Okay? That's where the authority came from. That's by tradition. That's how it was supposed to go. Now, the exception to that, and there's not a lot of exceptions. I mean, obviously, if If a woman's father is dead, or she has a spiritual head, an elder or pastor or something that she falls under, that's fine. Then he can do that. He can grant her the permission to marry. Here's an exception. When you go to Numbers and they're talking about vows, if a woman vows herself to a man, comes home to dad and say, hey, you know what? I married this guy. I promised myself to this guy. He's my husband now. And the father holds his peace, and the day that he hears it, the vow stands. So in essence, she got married without the dad's permission because he just held his peace. Now, he could be upset, but if he held his peace, she got married without his permission. He can be upset. He can be like, whatever. He's got to say no. It doesn't count. No, you're not. You're not married. He's got to say something. But if he holds his peace, she's married and it'll stand. But where is the father's authority in today's marriage? He basically just handed over the authority to the government. He basically did that. Okay? He basically did that. Let's keep going. Okay? Another one. Number 4. Now, for those of you who are against, polygyny, it says when you marry with a marriage license, you're like a polygynist. Now, they're trying to be negative on it or whatever. You guys know how I feel about it, but trying to be negative on it. But it's a good point. If you are so against polygyny, you just let this third party in your marriage. It says from the state's point of view, when you marry with a marriage license, you are not just marrying your spouse, but you are also marrying the state. The most blatant declaration of this fact that is found, they give an example of Ohio, of the state of Ohio, to give an example. And they said they had a brochure. It was titled "With This Ring I Do Wed." But anyway, let's look into it. It says it's published in the Ohio State Bar Association. The opening paragraph under the subtitle "Marriage Vows" state, actually, when you repeat your marriage vows, you enter into a legal contract. There are 3 parts to this contract, or 3 parties to this contract. You, number 1. Number 2, your spouse, husband, wife. Number 3, the state of Ohio. See, the state and the lawyers know that when you marry with a marriage license, you are not just marrying your spouse, you are marrying the state. You are like a polygynist, okay? There's 3 people in that relationship. You are not just making a vow to your spouse, but you are making a vow to the state and your spouse. You're also giving undue jurisdiction to the state. It's on you. That's what's going on in a traditional marriage scenario. Date someone, say, hey, let's go get married, go get a license. And then when you get married, third party contractual agreement. That's how it goes. The last point is when you marry with a marriage license, you grant the state undue jurisdiction over your marriage. Now, the other one was over, family government. And this was over your marriage. You see, when you marry with a marriage license, your marriage is a creature of the state. It is a corporation of the state. This grants the state undue jurisdiction over your marriage. In 1993, for example, parents were upset here in Wisconsin because a test was being administered to their children in the government schools, which was very invasive of the family's privacy. When parents complained, they were shocked by the school bureaucrats who informed them that their children were required to take the test by law and that they would have to take the test because they, the government school, had jurisdiction over their children. When the parents asked the bureaucrats what gave them jurisdiction, the bureaucrats answered, your marriage license and their birth certificate. Judiciously, and in increasing fashion, practically, your state marriage license has far-reaching implications. Now, if your mind is so constituted that you think that, hey, if I get a state marriage license, then that makes my marriage legit, then whom do you serve? What do you really believe? Because as far as the state of Ohio is concerned, and other states as well, you get a state license, marriage license, there are government overreach. They can do a lot of things because now you have their license and you have their birth certificate. That's what's going on. You gotta open up your eyes as to what is going on. Think about that for a minute. If this is what you want for your life, this is what you want for your family. This is not an opinion, okay? I mean, it's not my opinion. It's not my opinion. This is what's going on. Many of you, many of us, we have state marriage. I'm not saying I never had. Of course I had one, okay? I haven't. But eyes open now. Eyes open. Let me tell you, biblically, you have the Most High Yah. You have an agreement between you and your wife, of course, and the father. How it should be. I'm just saying how it should be. I'm not saying how it goes today. How it should be. Okay? You have some witnesses, and then you have consummation. Witness, agreement, consummation. Consummation. That's marriage. It's marriage. See, all this other stuff, okay, ceremony and all that, that's just added. You can have that, that's fine. Have a wedding ceremony, by all means. But all this extra stuff, it gives us a false sense of security. If you're not going to stay with me because we don't have a license, do you love me? Are you secure in our relationship? Now, I'm not saying that you can't have contracts and stuff like that. Of course, get contracts and insurance and all that other stuff. That's fine. I mean, if that's what you want to do, is that how you want to run your house? Okay, fine. But I'm talking about just the marriage. Because what happens is a lot of sisters, they get nervous. They get nervous. They say, okay, well, I can't trust that he's going to do. Okay, then why are you marrying him, period? Why are you marrying this guy if you can't trust his character? Now, again, let me say clearly, if the man is going to take care of his business and he's going to get you some health insurance, he's going to get life insurance on himself, he's going to get, a will, to somehow, some way force the state to carry out his demands after he passes, fine. That's still family government. That's still family government. You have to be smart about it, right? I'm talking to the fellas. And we understand that women want security. We understand as men, women want security. And men, they're supposed to provide that security. But let me tell you a man's duty. Food, shelter, conjugal rights. Okay? Over and above that is a bonus. Over and above that is a bonus. But you have to figure out what you want your marriage to look like. Okay? I've gone over marriage license. I've gone over what a marriage is biblically. And I've also given a little bit advice as to, how to carry out, the marriage. If you want to add in, wills and insurance and things like that. It's up to you. It's up to you. But let's call everything what it is, and let's call everything down the line without putting our emotions in it. Let's just put our logic and our thinking caps on. That's it. Let's just do that. But we don't have to get all emotional. We don't have to do that. You tell me what you think. Tell me what you think. But let's just be logical, not emotional. Sisters, hey, you can comment away. That's fine. I'm mainly talking to the guys. I want to see. I want to see with the brethren, what the guys, what's on their mind. Give me your feedback. Give me your comments down below. This is Israelite Prepper.